just like stories, you know. The only major known cause of cervical cancer is sexual exposure, not because we're wearing similar clothes and all that. So if that's a mechanism of transmission is not known to science as of the moment.
Okay.
And then, like I said, you know, having sexual exposure at an early time, maybe due to marriage or due to probably the decadence in the
society.
society.
Was that why, although I'm jumping a little bit, but it's really important, was that why during the time of the cervical cancer vaccination, a certain age range was targeted? Rather than those in the older age bracket, they targeted the younger ones, I think between 11 and 13 or 11 and 14. Was that the reason why?
Okay. Yes, of course. You know, because it's science, you know, that most of the time we have seen that most of the time the sexual exposure comes in almost about just shortly after this time. Even though we may argue that we have to even bring the age backwards, because sexual exposure can even occur at 10 years, depending on the family brought up of the girl child. Yeah.
All right. You mentioned that sexual orientation, sexual escapade, that is the major predisposing factor. Now, and from the special report, and you have also alluded to the fact that it's a sickness of the female folk.
Yes.
But it is gotten through sexual intercourse.
Yes.
And sexual intercourse is between a man and a woman.
Yes.
So how does the man transmit HPV, which is the etiological agent, without himself getting sick? And then the woman carries the virus and probably it progresses to becoming, you know, a cancer.
So if you look at the HPV virus, it affects surfaces. If you come to a woman, the epithelium, you know.
What is the epithelium?
The epithelium is the cover of those reproductive tracts. Like you have the vagina, you have the anus, you have the cervix. You find out that the HPV can actually affect all those surfaces. But the one we are discussing today is just the cervix, the cervical cancer. So men on their own part also has the covering of their penis. They can also have cancer caused by the same HPV.
Wow.
Then if also,
but it's not called cervical now because it's not cervix.
Yes. So it's called penile cancer. So you can also have penile cancer there, but that's just the man's own version of cervical cancer.
Wow.
They can also have vaginal cancer. All of them are also caused by the same type of viruses.
Tell us about oral sex. Can it transmit HPV?
Yes, definitely it can transmit HPV.
How does that work really?
Now, you are touching the body parts where those viruses are. So you swallow the viruses at the end of the day. So it can also cause problems in the throat. So
because there's also lining.
Yes, it can also cause throat cancer. So that's why it's not really advocated. I hope women will understand that.
No, we're here to educate. Please go ahead. So you're saying this same HPV that can cause cervical cancer, can cause penile cancer, and cause throat cancer.
And then if people that also have anal sex, also causes anal cancer.
My goodness. What are the signs, the earliest signs of cervical cancer?
Now, the truth is that at the early part of cervical, maybe, let me say, there are stages in this progression of the cancer. One is that the cancer can progress from infection to the precancerous stage. From the precancerous stage, the cancer itself.
Okay.
So you now find out that the cancer during the precancerous stage, no symptoms.
Asymptomatic.
So it's highly asymptomatic. So the woman who has such a condition won't know that it has any infection. Then also the early part of the cancer itself may not present with any symptom. However, when the woman starts presenting with symptoms, most of the time you find out that the cancer has advanced.
Yeah.
So now what are the symptoms a woman can see and you say that it has cervical cancer? First of all, you may have a discharge. Now, that discharge could be described as watery and has offensive odor.
Very different from the ovulation.
Yeah,
discharge.
no, it's not cyclical, it's always there, and it's watery and it's foul smelling. So if a woman has that, it means that she has to go and see the health professional, especially the one of the OBGYN. Okay? Now, apart from that, if a woman has sexual contact, especially maybe with the partner or the husband, and there is blood, so bleeding after sex, you must see the doctor for my examination. And
what kind of bleeding? Can you describe the bleeding?
Post-coital bleeding, maybe after sex, or during the sex, you see spots of blood. Of course, you must have to find out where is that bleeding coming from. Is it coming from tears, or is it just coming from those epithelium? If it happens, then we'll have to screen the woman further to know whether she has cervical cancer. Then I mentioned you can also touching inside the body if there is a mass there. Those masses are usually they bleed very easily. A woman touches there and there is bleeding. Now remember, this cancer doesn't stay only on the pelvis. It can also move forward to affect other organs.
Upwards.
It can move both. It can affect the rectum. It can affect the urinary bladder.
Is that mobile?
Of course, these are cells now, and those cells are they are micro, of the micro size, so they can be transmitted.
Do they talk to each other like? Do they have
you can see
intercell communication?
Of course, one cell affects the other just like that until it gets around the body. So now, if all those structures there around the cervix are affected, you may also have symptoms. One of the symptoms, a woman can come down with kidney failure. And now, what's happened? Maybe probably because this cancer affected the pelvis of the woman and blocked urine passage and damaged
from the bladder.
Yes, and damaged the kidneys. The woman may also urinate blood because the cancer has also affected the urinary bladder and she's now urinating blood. So you can see whenever a woman has any condition not to see blood and she sees blood from her private parts, she has to come to the hospital for further investigation. Or maybe she's poo-pooing and there is blood there, so she has to.
Well, with poo-pooing, you would suspect it's from your digestive tract.
That's what I'm saying. Whether it's from the digestive, well, you have
just
to come
go check yourself.
Yeah, so that we cannot investigate further and find out. But before that one occurs, of course, the major pathway could have had symptoms. Not like I said, more of bleeding. Most of the time, the bleeding is most of the time uncontrollably, and there is a lot of offensive smell. Of course, some of us that stay in the hospital, you find out that when you see a woman that has cervical cancer, of course, from the offensive odor, we know. We have not spoken to the woman, but we know that this is a cervical cancer, and it's a disease of shame, and nobody wants to have cervical cancer.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, a while ago we talked about certain lifestyle, factors that can predispose a woman. And there's this, well, I would call it like a cosmetic practice among the female folk. It's called douching. You find some people they'll tell you it's saline, it's neutral, the pH is neutral, just use it to wash your insides. Now, is this a myth? Is it an old wives' tale? Does it do any work, or is it a predisposing factor in itself, to that area? How does douching help the women folk, and does it predispose them to cervical cancer? Just
like I mentioned before, douching is not a practice that we support in our practice, because one, like you said, it can also help to transmit some other infections and all that, and it doesn't prevent cervical cancer in any form. Say you want to wash off the HPV viruses, it doesn't. So if somebody is practicing douching, it doesn't help prevention of cervical cancer.
Does it even do anything? Does it help in any way?
It doesn't have any significant value.
Therapeutic or
no
value.
It doesn't have. Probably people do it because they don't want to get pregnant. But
even
still,
with that,
it doesn't prevent
pregnancy.
Yeah.
All right. So according to the report, cervical cancer is like the second largest in terms of prevalence, second only to breast cancer. Now, why is it that most cancers, their etiology is unknown, but this one particularly is known? And there was this recent report, I've forgotten the details, where a surgeon was known to have contracted cancer from operating a cancer patient. Now, is this something that is real? Can a cervical cancer patient transmit, the virus to probably her physician or maybe a caregiver? So is it transmittable?
Well, for that to happen, there have to be a lot of processes. Like now, the caregiver could be a man. And before we operate on women, we usually protect ourselves properly, and so that there's no contact. So you find out that there's no contact. Like I said, the major problem there is contact, skin contact between both the two parties that are involved. So if there is no major persistent skin contact, there won't be any transmission.
Okay.
And like I said, not only that there is transmission, somebody gets HPV virus infection, but remember that over time, if you have a strong immunity, your body system can always remove those viruses. The problem is when the body immunity has failed and you find out that there is a development of cancer protein-like cells, which eventually, if unchecked, will eventually progress to cancer. Yeah.
All right. So, like I mentioned,